Welcome back, Markieff Morris. Welcome into Mavericks Today. Harrison Graham and Jeffrey Cooperstein here. Coop, the news dropped over the weekend that Keefe is returning on a one-year deal. It was starting to enter the territory of like, are we sure this is happening? Kind of felt like it was, but now it is official. He is back. We'll talk about the ramifications of that, what he brings to the team, and of course, how the roster could shake up after that. But before we get to all of that, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. We have year-round Mavericks coverage, latest news, rumors, analysis, free agency and draft coverage during those times of the year, trade deadline coverage, watch parties throughout the season. Coop's going to try and go live for as many games as possible. Sub for Mavs Dubs. Let's keep it rolling here. All right, Coop, he is back.
Indeed.
Your whatever you want to call him, kind of player coach returns to the sideline. And obviously he's not going to give you much as a player, but he means a lot to that locker room.
Yeah, it was only a matter of time before this got done. I mean, we knew that he wanted to be back. He was very vocal about that, and I think the Mavs were pretty vocal as well that they wanted him back. He was a key part of the team last year, even though he didn't see a lot of action on the court. He was a guy that was in the locker room. He was someone that was holding the top guys accountable, including Luka and Kyrie, and was a voice of reason, so to speak, in that locker room. Never thought I would like a Morris twin, but I do like this one, and I'm glad that he's back with the Mavs. Look, this is a signing that's not really going to impact you on the court, but it does help keep the locker room, help keeps the glue together and everything, so I'm all in on it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think with how deep the roster is, I'm okay with having one guy be someone who's not going to contribute on the court. If you were a younger team, not quite contending, I'd probably rather have that be someone you could play every once in a while, but that's not the case here. There are other 14 guys, at least, even like Omax and Powell, like in a pinch can play and hold their own. So I'm cool with it. Obviously, they have 16 on the roster now, which means someone has to go. We'll talk about who that's probably going to be here in just a moment, but let's welcome him back. The OG is back in Dallas. Woo! Get the 88s down in the comments as we're about, 3 weeks away from training camp?
Yeah, October 1st, so right around that. I can't wait, man. I'm very excited to see this team in action. Media Day, September 30th, and then we get going. The season starts.
Yeah, it's going to be here before we know it. Get the 88s rolling. All right, as we've said for a while, this likely means A.J. Lawson is out. Now, nothing has happened yet, Coop. It seems like they're probably going to keep him on the roster through training camp. And look, injuries can pop up. You never know what could happen. Maybe he outplays somebody. I don't know who that would be, though, to be honest. But the expectation will be is he'll ultimately get cut. I will say this, though, Coop. If they're keeping him this long, I do wonder if they'll bring him back on a two-way contract if he does get cut.
Yeah, that's possible. He's the only non-guaranteed contract on the Mavs right now as it stands, so he's just by default the most likely candidate to be cut. Now, he could make some noise in the preseason. I'm not sure if it would be enough to keep him on the roster. Look, AJ's been a nice piece for the Mavs, but he really hasn't done anything of substance, to be honest. He was on a two-way last year. After the trade deadline, they ended up converting him to a standard deal because they had the open roster spot so they could have him available for the playoffs if they needed him. AJ is an okay player, but is he anything to lose sleep about? I don't think so.
No, and we've kind of alluded to this. He's just not a very high – he's a low-ceiling player.
Exactly.
Like, if you put him in there, like, he knows what to do, but he's not a great shooter. He's not a great ball handler. He's a decent defender. He's kind of like, NFL season just getting underway. He's kind of one of these, like, preseason darlings where, like, you're rooting for him. He's a hard worker, but he's just not that capable.
Yeah,
I mean,
that is what it is.
That's the bottom line. Like, this is a guy that would probably be pretty damn good in the G League, pretty good in Europe. He's not good enough to be in a NBA rotation. Now, over the course of 30 NBA teams, should he be on a roster? Is he a top 450 player? Probably. Like, I think he could crack a non-playoff team's roster, but for Dallas, there's just not really a spot for him.
Yeah,
like, you have a complete roster here.
This is a complete team now, especially with the addition of Morris. You have all of your roles filled, so it's not like AJ is going to provide something that you don't already have. Is he a nice guy that we're on a pinch if you have a few injuries and you're in the middle of January and you want to get a guy some rest? Yeah, he can do a job, but you are not relying on A.J. Lawson to give you any substantial minutes, and if you are, you're in a whole lot of trouble. So I do think he'll be off the full roster on opening night. Will he be back on a two-way? That's possible, but it wouldn't surprise me if another team picked him up either.
Yeah, I could see him signing elsewhere, and if he could sign to an active roster, he should. Like, if I'm AJ Lawson, I'm looking for a bad team where I can maybe play.
Absolutely.
Like if Portland wants me, if Charlotte wants me, and I have a chance to crack a rotation, like that's probably what I'm looking for if I'm AJ Lawson, if he's ever going to be a contributor in this league. So the time is now for that, but we'll see how it shakes out with training camp getting going in a few weeks. All right, shout out to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's show. Football is in full-fledged mode, and there's money to be had with Prize Picks, the best daily fantasy sports app out there. Get started today, prizepicks.com/CLNS. They have an awesome deal with that code CLNS. They will give you a $50 bonus once you fire off your first $5 entry. And the way it works is simple. You choose 2 to 6 players and take more or less on the stat projections lined out from Prize Picks. Got a little Monday action here for you. Christian McCaffrey, little goblin pick, so I expect him to find the end zone. George Kittle, was that 4 receptions there, taking the more on that. And then less on Aaron Rodgers passing yards. Good defense in San Francisco, coming off the Achilles. Kind of like that play. That's 10 to win just less than 50 there. But again, you can just play for $5 and get that $50 bonus. And again, doesn't matter if you hit or not. It's guaranteed to go into your account. So check out Prize Picks today, prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS, get that $50 bonus once you play for $5. All right, Coop, let's talk a little Kyrie Irving as a little motivation factor for Kyrie. Coming off a great year, obviously flamed out a little bit in that Boston series, but you're hoping, for the team to take that next step, which would be winning it all. And Kyrie playing better in a series of that caliber is going to be needed if they're going to do that.
Yeah, Kyrie was on Twitch earlier this weekend, and he was kind of talking about how disappointing it was that the Mavs ended up just not coming up just short there in the finals. And here's exactly what he said. Last year was definitely a disappointing year from the standpoint of not winning the finals. I'm always going to take my accountability. We're going to be back. Losing effing sucks, though. And yeah, I'm glad that Kyrie is, taking accountability for his performance in the finals. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that he did not play his best, and I really do believe that the noise got to him. I think the distraction of playing against Boston, his former team, where the divorce there was really ugly, I think that got to him, and he ended up struggling in the finals for the most part. And I'm not saying that's the reason the Mavs lost, but it certainly didn't help their efforts to win.
Yeah, I mean, I think Boston was just a better team. I think that's pretty clear, but he just didn't even give you a chance to win this series. I mean, him and Luka both had to be really good for them to win that series. And Luka was good, not great. Kyrie was pretty poor.
Yeah.
I think he was it the game 3 or 4 at home. He played pretty well, but all 3 games in Boston, he was pretty bad. The 3-point shot was there. He was all those floaters he was making all year. Couldn't make any of those.
Them, yeah.
He just missed a lot of shots he normally makes. And I'm with you. I don't think he'd ever admit it, but the environment got to him.
It did.
He just did not handle it well. And, it is what it is. It's something to learn from. It's not like I'm down on Kyrie because of it. It's just a fact of the situation.
Yeah.
He just didn't play that well. He's taking the accountability. And, look, the Mavs, in a lot of ways, overachieved last year. Doesn't mean they weren't worthy of being an NBA Finals team, but we said coming into the season, if you made the playoffs and won a series, that's a pretty good year based on what happened the year before.
Absolutely.
Now, it's, I think a baseline for this team, fair or not, is probably being a conference finals team. The expectations are very high, and Kyrie obviously is going to have to play well for them to reach those goals.
Yeah, once you make it to the finals and you seemingly improve on paper in that offseason, your expectations only get higher. I agree that if this team doesn't make the conference finals this year, I would view it as somewhat of a disappointment. Absolutely. And I'm glad that Kyrie is taking accountability. It seems like he's been doing more and more in that. As time goes on here in Dallas as well. He is viewed as one of the leaders on this team alongside Luka and Markieff Morris. And he needs to set that example. And he'll be the first to admit that he didn't play well. And hopefully things change. Maybe they don't even play Boston in the finals if they're to get there. That would help things. But this is going to be a new year for Kyrie, and I still think he's going to have a really good season with the Mavs.
So will the Mavs get back to the finals this year? What say you? Type Y for yes, or you can type in for no. I mean, you and I certainly hope so. They've got the team to do it. Obviously, probability would say no, but
They're doing it.
we're going back, baby.
Let's go.
We'll see you in June. We'll see if Smitty's there with us.
F. Smitty.
Probably not. F. Smitty in the chat, and we'll see you next time on Mavericks Today.